Good morning. Today is all about Pixar's latest animated film, Coco. We talk about family, culture, and stereotypical French accents. We are the good, the bad, and the just plain standard podcast.
Pump it up.
Hello, guys.
Hey.
All right.
So in our Three Billboards episode, we were talking about where we were born and moved, and there's a bit in there. So basically, Adam, you were born and raised in Dunfermline, moved to Glasgow 2 years ago, and immediately found love. And I've been going around the world for almost 30 years, and I'm still looking for it. That's unfair.
I know. It's just a small world. You just don't know what's going to happen, do you? I mean, I grew 19 years in one place, moved to another, and then within like 3-4 weeks, you found somebody.
Yeah, especially it's funny because people talk about it and it felt very natural. It wasn't forced. We didn't date.
No.
We didn't do any of that kind of stuff. It was just we enjoy each other's company, and so pretty much move in with me. Like it wasn't even said. It was just like I was at Adam's house all the time.
Yeah, from term 3.
Yeah,
yes,
and it didn't take long before I'd met his parents and vice versa. Like it was just a very natural thing of cause of events.
You just don't think about societal pressures. I mean, I had a conversation with Yann yesterday actually about the fact that I think one of the reasons it worked out so well so quickly is because we spent enough time that most people would spend in the first 3 years of their relationship seeing each other, like actual hour-wise.
Yeah, we were working with each other, so we were we were in school together, so that was every day, all day. And
then the other aspect is that we never thought about the the societal pressures of like, oh my god, I want to move. Like every romantic comedy that has the moving in with me skit, beat for beat, usually goes, what character A? I want to move in with you. I think it's time. Character B. Oh, I'm not too sure. Character A. Oh, never mind. Character A shattered. Spend 2 episodes probably like rebuilding the relationship. We just didn't think about that. It was like, my contract at my student accommodation's up. I need to move in somewhere, and it's like, just move in with me. And then we did. And the rest is history.
I mean, it wasn't even that. It was just like, we were kind of flirting. And then in the first few weeks.
Well, maybe you were, and I was missing the fucking point.
Oh well, that's like in the beginning. That's in the beginning, but that's just because I'm a little bit older than you, and I'm a Londoner.
I'd never been flirted with because Anouk makes a very bold point, but it is true that all of my mates from Dunfermline are extremely good looking. So I kind of like shifted into the background there. Plus, I wasn't confident at that age. I was just very much in the background. I got on with everyone, but I never put myself forward.
Also, Adam, you are as good looking as your friends. It's just maybe not now, but you told yourself then that they were all more better looking than you.
It was like in the American Pie. Yeah. Oh my god, I was used.
Yeah.
I was used. Cool.
Yeah, nice. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's all relevant to this episode, probably.
So today is all about Coco.
Starring
Anthony Gonzalez, Gael Garcia Bernal, Benjamin Bratt, Alana Ubach, Renee Victor, Anophelia Mugoya,
Yeah.
Edward James Olmos.
I had a debate with myself, actually, like minutes before we started recording this. Did I say featuring the voices of? And I'm like, no, because it's the same caliber as actors. You just don't see them on the screen. And I think there's a major gap in most people's eyes, between voice actors and, on-screen actors, which is a very weird bracket. Because, yes, voice acting is a different talent, almost. Talent's the wrong word. Different skill, because you can't rely on anything you're doing with your body. It all has to be in the voice. So it's a discipline. It's a different discipline.
It's recorded afterwards, and we've got the lines and stuff. It's ADR all the time.
But I would still, if somebody said to me, I'm a voice actor, I'd say, but you're an actor as well. I would very much have the point of saying, no, you're an actor as well.
I didn't realize Edward James Olmos was in there.
Yeah.
Was he the famous singer? No.
Give me a second.
Santa Maria.
Chicharron.
Oh, one of the one, I don't know, one of the guys in the band, maybe? I don't know who okay.
I can look it up, 1 second.
Why does Coco, when I put Coco cast, the first Google option is Google cast Jake Paul? I'm like, what? He wasn't in this, was he? I hope not.
I think
no, he was.
Chicharon is the man who it disappeared the first time that we learn about dead people disappearing from this world completely. The one that was being forgotten.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. The very first with the orange
shakes.
Blink. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yes. Awesome. Yes. Anouk just showed me the image. Yeah. Nice. In the bed bunker thingy.
I'm getting
hammock.
Yeah.
Edward James Olmos was, well, obviously in Blade Runner, but he was excellent in Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
Admiral Adama, just great.
I'm getting really confused because I've just seen a thing that says that Jake Paul's in this, and now I'm looking at the IMDb, and it's like, is he in this? So apparently he is Tito Felipe. So I'm going to just look in the IMDb to see if that's true. I mean, he was a Disney star before all this YouTube and Vine thing. Like that is where he's from.
Well, I mean, Harry Styles was very good in Dunkirk.
Oh, he was excellent. Yeah.
So, he got a lot of flack for it, but actually watching the film, hats off, because he was very good. He's one of the I think he's one of the twins then, the skeleton twins.
Yeah, I've just lost their names again.
Jake Paul?
I don't think...
Philip and something else.
Tito, Oscar and Tito Felipe are both voiced, apparently on IMDb, by Herbert Seguiza. Apparently he is the voice actor for the twins. So I don't know what the internet's doing. I don't know if they're the twins, but that would make sense because he's both characters and they're both called Tio Oscar and Tio Felipe.
Yeah, true. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't really care.
Yeah. What a great talent for world building they have at Disney's Pixar.
Oh my God, yes. As soon as you walk into the dead world and the kind of tiered, it looks a little bit like Shark Tale, but like a better version of like their Shark Tale's world under the sea.
Makes you a bit regret that we didn't see that on a big screen.
Yeah.
Super colorful, yeah.
Yeah.
It was visually amazing.
They are clearly going for the emotions on this one. I was warned before, not spoiled anything, but I was told, and you don't see it coming, that's you just like Bambi's mother. That's you could shed tears on this one.
Oh yeah, I definitely did. I'm a crier as well in film, so I was definitely crying by the end of it. One thing that I would say is that the end surprised me, but all throughout I did sort of see where it was going. But that also wasn't a bad thing.
I mean, it's always a debate about twist endings. I mean, you think twists, I think Saw, because of, like Saw 1. But then those whole things they were all about a twist. I think my opinion on twists are great. Even if you see the twist coming, it's how you handle the after effects of a twist is what makes your film. And this film handles it excellently, and it's not, haha, we fooled you, guess what? It's like, actually, this is actually the truth, and here's how we go forward from that.
Well, yeah, the thing is that the full first act and a half, I would say, there are no twists.
Absolutely.
So you don't see the major one coming. But then once this one happened, and as you said, like, I'm sorry guys, but I saw this coming a mile away, because we already were in the mindset, oh, okay, there are twists. So, yeah.
And that's fair play to the director, Leert Arntkirch, which is, you will know, from Toy Story 3.
Oh.
He is the director of Toy Story 3. And that makes a hell of a lot of sense, because both of those films kind of deserve to be nominated for Best Picture. And, I mean, we'll talk about this I'll actually talk about it now. There's been, the more I watch animation, and I think it really should, some animated films could easily be nominated for Best Picture. And it annoys me that, because there's a criteria, obviously animation is its own category. I think that does kind of annoy me in a way, because it's like, some of these films are equally as good as some of the stuff that is in the Best Picture category.
Well, yeah, there was this genre thingy, right? Just like, for instance, at the César in French, which is the equivalent of the Oscars, no comedies ever.
Ah, okay.
Here, that was, I think, kind of the first, because The Shape of Water is a fantasy thing, and that must have been the very first fantasy film winning the Best Picture.
Yeah.
Ever.
Lord of the Rings, Yann.
Did it win?
Yeah, Lord of the Rings
really?
Cleared up, yeah. I'll look at, I think
sure?
one of the fewer ones Lord of the Rings did not win was Ian McKellen.
Really?
I think, or at least...
Yeah. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, Best Picture, 2004, Peter Jackson.
I think, maybe not put it in the same genre because it's not, and it's a completely different skill set. So I personally wouldn't say that the actor that plays Miguel, if he's up for, Best Actor.
No, I
think what you should do is increase the importance of animated film and the skills that go with people that are behind the film. I think the fact that you kind of fall in love with characters that are, you forget that there are people behind those characters. And so increase the importance of that, definitely. But I think it is a completely different genre.
Yeah, there must be like people advocating against like crazy. Like, I know my father, every time there is animation in it, well, he smells animation from afar, and just like Star Wars, he just can't stand anything animated.
Oh, what a shame!
Yeah,
missing out. And I think that if you give some a chance, you'd probably like it a bit more. Like, you do have to give it a bit of a chance, a little bit like musicals. There are some films that you would like, even though you can't stand a certain genre.
Well, the thing is that I started to watch, because I stopped because we started recording, but Les Parapluies de Cherbourg.
Ugh, I love
and
that film.
Actually, that's not a musical. It's a recitative. So it's kind of more like an opera.
Recitative.
Yeah, recitative. That's I checked on YouTube the pronunciation before. It's recitative. Anyway,
that's speaking with song, essentially.
Yeah, I was wondering if that's a different thing, because obviously with so many film musicals, and even if you go on watch something on the stage, it's got spoken word and then songs involved in it. But this film is just completely sung.
The parapluie?
Yeah.
Well, I actually checked earlier the recitative, what it meant, and it's a style of delivery much used in operas, in which a singer is allowed to adopt the rhythms of ordinary speech. Recitative does not repeat lines as formally composed songs do. It resembles sung ordinary speech more than a formal music composition. And if you watch Les Mis, the one with the
newer one,
Russell Crowe, is pretty much everyone in there is singing except Russell Crowe, where he's recitating, and it sounds a bit weird, and they got a lot of hate for this. But he's the only one recitating actually in the.
Recitative is great because it allows an audience to connect in a different ways. Because there are some people, like Yann is one of them, that musicals that are just all sung turn them off immediately. For example, like Jesus Christ Superstar is all sung. What other ones are all sung? Evita is all sung. A lot of Andrew Lloyd Webber's are like that. Except I think that one of the big exceptions is Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera has spoken
dialogue,
word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that's something that I probably missed because I'm not French. Well, I don't speak French.
Well, there is another one which are always mixed. Les Demoiselles de Rochefort, The Young Girls of Rochefort, which is also with Catherine Deneuve, also made by Jacques Demy. And this one, I haven't seen it yet, but I think this one is a more of a musical than Les Parapluies is recitative.
So it has dialogue.
It has actually the whole, they are reciting in Les Parapluies, but when you look, so that's why I was a bit confused, because you said there was no dialogue, but in the credits, Jacques Demy is directing and writing the dialogues, because there's this thing in France, I think it's quite unique, or I'm not sure, but I mean, the director, there's someone writing the story, so the screenwriter, and someone specifically in charge of dialogues.
Okay.
So it's kind of in all the stuff in the US, you've got 3 screenwriter credits, so they probably do that, but it's not specified who is doing what. In France, especially old films, you had, so for the dialogue, this guy, because you had very, very famous dialogists. So just the name of this guy for dialogues was selling tickets.
I learned something interesting about, if we're on the subject of countries like France and stuff, I just discovered while looking into the Yann's faux pas of like, first fantasy to win an Oscar, I'm like, come on, Yann, Lord of the Rings, 2004.
What?
In 2004, Return of the King won Best Picture, right?
That's weird because it
won a hell of a load, but it also won, right, Best Foreign Film in the Australian Academy of Cinema and Television Art, right? And I looked this up. Right, so here's the breakdown. The Australian Film of Institute Awards for Best Foreign Film was an award presented by the Australian Film Institute, the AFI, for a film made outside Australia in English or non-English language. That is a really odd categorization for any film not made in Australia. Yeah, could win Best Foreign Film.
They are very, in Australia with their star system and stuff, they are very, you can't, except if you have very specific skills that no one else has, like a French baker, or moving there is kind of a difficult thing, and try to be a citizen is just like, so I'm not really surprised that they have their own, made in English, but not in Australia, kind of thing.
So just to round off the whole thing about Lord of the Rings, it nominated for 337 awards overall in its whole picture run, won 258 of them.
That's amazing.
That is a hell of a lot of numbers.
It is very good, so I definitely...
So correction, The Shape of Water is the first bestiality movie to win an Oscar.
Yeah. I think, I don't know if it was broken, but Lord of the Rings, the last one, is the first film to ever win 11, tying with Titanic and Ben-Hur for as many Oscar wins.
Okay.
Ben-Hur, cracking film.
Yeah.
Titanic, I mean, it's Titanic.
It's epic.
You know what it is? You know what it is? It's Titanic. Titanic's its own category now.
They should make a sequel, like he's
they did.
Falling back to the door and never dies.
I've got some fun animated films for you to watch.
I think I've seen that. Yeah. So let's talk about Coco then. I don't really have notes on this one, really. I'm done with them. So do you have specific pointers you'd like to share with the world?
Do you?
I really enjoyed it. Like and I'm really glad that they were respectful to Mexican culture. And apparently it was the first time that it was an all Latino cast with a 9-digit budget.
Wow.
Let me check that, because it might just be animated. It might not just there might be films that are.
I thought that this because it's very tough. I mean, you always, as soon as the Pixar logo comes up, you're like, right, so this is going to win Best Picture. Like, there are only a few bad Pixar movies, and they're not necessarily bad. They're just not as great as the other ones. So I always come into Pixar with a bit of it's not anticipation, it's the other word for it.
Apprehension?
Apprehension, that's it. I'm a bit apprehensive coming in. But I have to say, this one kind of blew me away. This is definitely in top 5 animated films I've seen for a long time. And I have quite a high caliber for animated films. But incredible. As a musician, I loved it as well. It was the music was fantastic.
And the song, the main song was apparently kind of lauded massively.
It's very good.
Remember Me. Especially because I thought it was quite nice that at first it was performed to us. It was like show tuney. And it was just a bit like, I don't know, those kind of songs make me cringe a little bit. So at first I thought I'm really not a fan of this song or this style of music. But then later on, when it became slower and about family and missing someone, actually it was nicer, much nicer.
Yeah, it's one of the few, you have songs in musicals, for example, that you repeat, but they're a reprise,
Yeah.
When they change the meaning of them.
Yeah.
This had quite a few reprises, and all of them were just fantastic. It was amazing. One of the biggest things I have to give this film credit for is the fact that they animated the kid playing real chords, playing the guitar for real. That's just, I've never seen in any film that I have seen them actually play the song. And the one that sticks in my head the most is it's a Jimi Hendrix movie when he's like playing in Britain, playing Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heartstring Band, and you don't see him, like, you barely see him play the actual guitar because obviously the actor can't play like Hendrix did. So major props for actually animating the kid playing the guitar.
Yeah, Hearts Club Band, you mean?
Yes, Hearts Club Band. What did I say? Heartstring Band.
It's funny, in the previous episode, Call Me By Your Name, we talk about title and the fact that it's in there. Coco, we would imagine the name of the protagonist, but it's the name of the old lady, and you don't really notice or care about, you don't, is she really involved in what's the whole point of her? And as we go through, it makes sense towards the end, the whole family thing with her, so it's a very greatly picked title for this.
It was really nicely done, and it was all about like the generations. So that's like going back 4 generations. That there's like a link, which is kind of something that you don't really think about. That, like, you know, your great grandmother was once, you know, around and had a life.
Was a human being, as opposed to just a photo.
Exactly.
Yes.
And like and also maybe has connections to you as a person, which is crazy to think of, but that's one of the nicest moments, I think, when Miguel is talking to Hector in the end and saying, like, I always felt like something was wrong with me, and I was different, and now I realize it was just because, you know, I had a connection with you and no one else. The music came from somewhere.
Again, this film is highly educational at the same time. I learned a hell of a lot of new things. I'm like, oh wow, that's okay. Yeah,
about Mexico, and especially because the only things you hear about Mexico are bad things, you know.
Build a wall.
Build a wall, and drugs, and
you're all lazy, and
gangs and stuff. And of course, you don't believe it, but you don't ever hear anything positive, especially because I mean, us in Britain, we don't hear of these things. Obviously, in America, it's probably very different. But there isn't that much positive reinforcement.
You don't think of it's hard to picture Mexican culture. You know,
exactly.
It's so
far away
from us, and so different as well.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, in a very good way. Like how Japanese and Chinese cultures are so different from over here. For example, before this episode, I went out and did my other job, which I'm an Uber Eats cyclist. And I get quite a lot of student deliveries, which are obviously, they've come over from China or Japan. And I never, like, I know some drivers might, but they're like, you never get tips from them. But I'm like, that's not what they do in China and Japan. You know, it's not a culture of tipping. It's all about customer service, you know? And I'd never really thought about that till today, actually. And I think it's because of Coco I did. Because I knew, obviously, I know because me and Anouk are watching some animes right now about and we're planning to go to Japan, hopefully, next year. We knew about the whole tipping thing, because it's like one of the big differences.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd never thought about it in delivery sense. Like, I'm like, oh, maybe, like, they're students and they don't tip. That was always my first assumption, but then it was like, it's this, and they've just brought it over. That makes total sense.
It's also not just a cultural thing. It's actually rude to leave extra money.
Oh yeah, that's it. They think like, no, you're giving me charity, like, go to hell. Like, I don't think I've told this story on air, but one time in Japan, I left some money and I was chased by the waitress outside, like, wait, like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Almost like you left money, like that must have been a mistake, because that whole 10%, you know, tip that it's for us, it's nice because we know how little money people make, and it's also about respect. Like, I'll give you a little bit more on the side because you were, like, you know, waiting on us. You know, like you were helping us with our food.
You did us a service.
Yeah.
There's a little extra.
But in Japan, it's like, I'm giving this to you. I've made this. And also the food that they make is like, it takes ages and skill and heart and family generational, recipes. And if you give me more than, yeah, exactly, it's like it's seen as charity, and that's kind of insulting. So yeah, that's a really interesting point, that like now that the world is like so small, it's really nice that we're now learning about different cultures and how you have to respect them. I'm kind of hoping that Jake Paul isn't in this film. I looked it up. Because he has no idea how to respect cultures.
Oh God, yeah.
And I'm hoping that he'll learn, but because this film was so respectful and nice, and actually we looked up Day of the Dead and Ofrenda and all of these things, and it seems respectable. Like it actually seems right. And
Spirit Animals were great also.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Which reminds me of Philip Pullman's Northern Lights.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Even though that's actual humans that have animals connected to them, and it's like your soul. Coco is the first ever motion picture with a 9-figure budget to feature an all Latino cast with a cost of $175 to $200 million.
So he's definitely not in the main cast. So he's definitely not in it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very important to understand that people are from different places and they don't have the same culture as we do, or America does, Do you know what
would be quite interesting? I don't know if we can find it out because we'd have to watch it in, Spanish. But if they had the same voice actors do it in Spanish.
Well, what I thought was quite nice is that when they did speak Spanish, it sounded like there was an accent. Like all of the actors were accented, and every time that they had Spanish words, it seemed like it was correctly said. And I know that there are a few, I can't think off the top of my head, but there are a few films when the person is definitely not from the place that they've been told that,
Dick Van Dyke.
Oh yeah, the famous awful accent of Dick Van Dyke.
I mean, everyone goes for Dick Van Dyke, or the joke in Inglourious Bastards, Buongiorno, when they all pretend, when Brad Pitt and the others pretend to be Italian.
Well,
C.
I went to check Allo Allo, and the guy, the actor is called Arthur Bostrom, was playing Officer Crabtree.
Yeah.
And so the stuff he's doing is pretty much, I believe, he created that whole stereotype.
Yeah, that's why I brought up. That's why I brought it up in the episode, because I'm like, I think that's where that comes from.
There's like a good morning. Or like there's this I was just passing around the corner, I was just pissing around the corner.
That was the quote I was trying to remember. I was pissing around the corner when I heard the shit, as opposed to I was passing around the corner and I heard a shot.
And this one, the bombers were being chased by fighters when they dropped their bombs on the London docks, which became the bombers were being chased by fighters when they dropped their bombs on the London dicks. And I can't
even close.
It's just stupidly racist.
Do you know how far away it is for that? That Yann saying those lines with a French accent as they are doesn't make the joke work.
No.
You know what I mean?
I had a bit of Scottish in that.
Yeah, you were like, it was a lovely day for a ride, isn't it?
But Arthur Bostrom actually is fluent in French. So if he speaks like this, the accent he used in Allo Allo.
That's probably the great irony of that show. I mean, there's another British sitcom called Steptoe and Son, and one of the actors in it was like a aspiring Shakespearean actor of his time. But because of that show, he just got a reputation of doing like sitcoms, and he never really did Shakespeare again. So I think that's kind of the irony in these big like sitcoms, especially because I am not surprised that actor is fluent in French. I mean, I'm probably in the beginning the guy might have had an idea of like, oh, it's going to be like this, and then you get the script and you're like, oh, okay, we're going with this, are we?
Talking about voiceovers, Sam Rockwell in Dishonored 2 was Mortimer Ramsey.
All right, I have to play the game. It would have been interesting if he was Carvel. That would have been fun.
So and it kind of makes me want them, Pixar and Disney, to remake Aladdin and make it actual Indian people.
They are doing a live action.
They're doing a live one,
that's not a remake. That's not anime or because the old ones were not really 3D animation. How do you call that? Like moving comics? How do you call those old?
In what sense?
Live action, isn't it?
No, I mean you know, like
the old style,
the original Aladdins.
Oh,
was that named animation?
That was animation
already. Yeah. So now these days it's 3D animation then or something.
Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but all I mean is that like it's probably now the time to be able to have the respect for all cultures rather than going backwards and doing animations or just have them American. But then don't make it about India. Do you know what I mean? Like there's you can make them Indian Americans, but then make it, you know, them in America rather than making it America's view on India.
Yeah, because at the time maybe they didn't have the pool of actors
to help,
like well known in Hollywood
to help Yann out. Nowadays we would call what Aladdin and Snow White and all that is traditional animation or classical animation or cell animation or hand drawn animation, as opposed to computer animation, which is what we have nowadays.
Right. Yeah, computer
animation is what took over.
3D that's the thing with Cocos and stuff. But
me and Anouk have this lovely Tarshan's book about the early era of Disney, and it comes with the actual things that they do. We'll take a video for Instagram and show it off at some point.
Yeah, using like a see-through cellophane.
I'm trying to find that name.
Celluloid. They use the celluloids in animes and stuff. Still.
So different layers, but like it's something that you can hold. So like on paper, and then on top you put the cellophane, which has like different things drawn over it, and then on top you have something else, and it's like layered.
I've seen that kind of stuff, not for Disney, but that's smart and that's beautiful. Yeah,
really smart. One thing I would like to say about Coco is that I really liked how things like led on to the other. I thought it was really swiftly and cleverly done, like how they're like, okay, we have to find De La Cruz, and he's like, yes, and then over here. And he's like right around the corner, and then there's a fight scene, and then Imelda lands on the rising stage, and then she's on stage, and then she has to sing, and then there's the camera, and there's just like a really long track of things that happen like one after the other, and it's just so clever, and I just thought it was so smoothly done, and it was like thrilling to watch, actually. And I feel like it's been a while since I've watched an animation and had that feeling of like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Do you think you feel that, A, because we're currently watching Death Note and there's some episodes in Death Note that nothing really happens, but it's all building? Or do you think that's because you watched Call Me By Your Name and Stealing Beauty the other day, which are notoriously slow paced and they work perfectly, as opposed to this, which is fast paced and it works perfectly?
Oh, that's interesting.
Do you think that has an effect on your enjoyment?
That might have actually done it, because it's a very different type of film, isn't it? That something's quite fast paced, even though there were moments where it dragged slightly. I'm not going to lie. There were moments where I was like, where the hell is this film going? But then I'm also like, I kind of want to watch it again. So it wasn't boring and it wasn't shit. It wasn't about that. It was just, there were moments where the scene you kind of fell out of the illusion. I
agree with that, in the sense of I forgot what they were doing. As in, like, it's like, what's going on? What's his goal here? I know he's trying to get back home, but I was like, I must have missed it, but how does he end up in the world? Is it because he stole on the Day of the Dead? He got cursed or something, that he manages to pass over to the other world? Because I missed that.
Yes.
I think, is that what they say?
Actually, you were away for a good 4 minutes of this film. So you were, I don't know.
I was cooking dinner.
Yes. So you missed a few things, including the twist, actually. But it was explained further afterwards, so you got that. But you forgot, you didn't get the actual lines. But the first thing, no, I think you were there for the stealing bit, I think.
And that was where it started. So he stole on the Day of the Dead, and because of that, he stole from the dead.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which is probably part of the whole thing. Like, you stole, but you also stole from the dead on the Day of the Dead.
I was there for the twist, by the way, when they're in the Like the cell of the pond, like Gollum's lake, Lord of the Rings. That bit. I was there for that.
No, that's the follow-up to the other major twist.
Oh, you mean when we find out he's been murdered?
Yeah.
I was.
But it
I heard it. I was still in the room. But,
right. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I got that. Yeah.
Allo Allo. I am French.
What did you honestly think of Hello Hello then?
Well, I actually only watched the Crabtree compilations.
Oh, of course, right.
So it was the good morning, for 5 minutes. It was like
there was another show like that. When I was back in the film with Anouk, my dad was watching it on like old channels, but it's called On the Buses, which to me and Anouk it doesn't work because it's just this whole different thing. It's about bus conductors, right? And nowadays, there's not really, you can't picture bus conductors talking to each other. Or maybe I'm just thinking about London bus drivers. Like, all they say is like, and then they swap over on the bus. But, that style of show is very, very British humour.
Well, in the last 10 years, I must have heard about that hello, hello thing at least 10 times. So I officially blame Arthur Bustrom for this. But also it's quite nice because he made it's culturally ingrained. So now every actor who is working on their French accent is basing that on him.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
which is quite awesome.
If you're listening in America, absolutely YouTube Allo Allo. Is it apostrophe ALLO?
It's like when you're answering the phone, like hello. It's like hello, kind of.
All right,
so
hello,
ALLO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely Google it to see what Yann's talking about, because America will not know what we're talking about.
Probably not.
Absolutely won't. They will not know it.
Some of my American friends talk me about this.
Really?
Yeah. And my friend from Holland also, Wim, and so I think it crossed over the. Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
God,
That's interesting.
I can't imagine that crossing over.
No, it's like, very British, isn't it?
It's like how Pee Wee Herman and what was the other one that was like, even Sesame Street. I know we know about Sesame Street, not so much because everyone knows about Sesame Street, but we didn't have that over here, did we? I don't think we did. I'll find out. But definitely, like, there are things that are culturally ingrained in, like, to American kids, like, Mr. Rogers, that was the name I was looking for. These, like, they're parts of their childhood. I'm not, and what I basically mean is that's their cultural, I was about to say cultural appropriation, but I'm like, Freudian slip. Their cultural heritage, as opposed to Hello Hello and like British sitcoms over here, are our cultural heritage.
Carry On movies.
Carry On. That's bang on. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that in the 10 people that talked to me about this, there was at least half that were American or from the other continent.
Okay, that's quite interesting to know. I did not know that.
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot happening in this film. So you have to be
focused.
I think there's a lot, especially because it sounds so childish, but there's a lot of visual stimulus as well. Like the colors are so bright and in your face, like it's so beautifully done. But because there's so much happening in this story and it's so bright, there's so much stuff going on. So I'd quite like to watch this again, and maybe a third time, to really be able to know what was what I thought.
I really wanted to, when we watched it, I really wanted to try and go, if we could go see in theaters again. And it's no longer in the cinemas now.
No.
It's gone.
Such a shame.
Huh.
Yeah.
So I looked up the whole Did Sesame Street air in Britain, and it did, but the BBC, Britain really did not want to show it.
Oh, interesting.
Because they said they already had shows like this. They had the Magic Roundabout, which is
yes.
The BBC, this is from Wikipedia. The BBC disliked the series from the very beginning and refused to air a British version, claiming that there were already children's television programmes that accomplished the same goals as Sesame Street. Throughout 1970 and 71, debates raged in British media about broadcasting the show in the UK. The creator of Sesame Street expressed her hopes that Britain a British version of the show could expose British children to something more telling than the magic roundabout.
Okay, well, yeah, okay. Yeah, I kind of get that. Like, if you've already got something like that, why would you, air something else? That's a kind of exactly the same.
So, Allo Allo ran from 82 to 92 in the UK. And there was, just found in New York Times archives, an article, Britain's Allo Allo, a new comedy series. And, well, it was at the time where people were reading more newspapers than they are today. But there was like, Allo Allo is not Noel Coward. Actually, it is less subtle than Benny Hill. Undeniably, however, it is British, the kind of series that the British seem able to mass produce.
Well, America loved Monty Python. So I guess Allo Allo would work in the same sense as that.
Of course.
Obviously not the same caliber, but...
No. but I did enjoy it. I think probably not the greatest thing to say on a podcast, but I think I want to see it again because there's quite a lot of stuff going on in the animation. But I did enjoy it. I laughed and I cried and lots of emotions.
When we think about the last animation we watched and review on the podcast, that would be Brave.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And listeners know how I feel about Brave. I'll do this the easy way. I'm going to compare what Brave failed to do and Coco did. It had a consistent story the whole way through, right? Even though you kind of lost track at some points because it was such like a grand adventure, which happens in these sort of movies. It was always about the family. As opposed to Brave, when they changed it halfway through. It suddenly became mother-daughter, right? It was a hell of a lot more colourful.
Yeah.
It was vibrant, cinematography. There was a moment I went, wow. I think my quote was, the money they must have spent to colour that in was my quote for when we saw like the establishing shots of the
Land of the Dead.
The Land of the Dead, yeah.
Matt Asbury and Danielle Feinberg was cinematography.
Bang on. And
that's in terms of world building again. So that's a place we for sure know absolutely nothing about. So they did a good job.
But also in the sense of world building, which I absolutely exploded, and it was like, calm down, was when at the beginning a Pizza Planet delivery car drives past. I'm like, Pizza Planet!
Yeah,
You are a sad little man.
See, that would not have happened in the cinema because we don't use phones, we don't shout, we don't, and this is because it was here in Milk and Wineglass.
No, I'm not joking, Yann. I would have turned to Anouk in the cinema and go, the Pizza Planet! Shh! Like, I would have a reaction, and I'd be like, but I wouldn't have been, like, shouting out. That you're right, at home, it's a different atmosphere. But yes, it's just because I love Toy Story, man. And it's almost, now that I know when into research that the director of Toy Story 3 is the director of this film, makes total sense. Also, did anyone spot the 420 in this film, which apparently is in all Pixar movies?
Oh, what? No.
Oh, I know there are some. I didn't
spot it in this one.
I read about stuff like this a few years ago. I didn't remember what it was, but yeah, this kind of stuff that they bring in old movies, like kind of Easter egg. I don't remember what this one means specifically, but yeah, it's always funny to see.
In Flushed Away, you see the lion in Madagascar.
Because that's owned by DreamWorks, yeah.
Type thing. So it's kind of like that. Like you'd have to watch a film and look at the background because they always put little things in there. So
of course,
it makes it kind of more fun if you're watching the film for like the 10th time. You kind of like can notice these things.
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm.
Like
which is nice.
in the end credits, like the joke animations of Toy Story 2. They have the characters from A Bug's Life they're like, oh, we're going to be in the new Pixar movie. And then so like the toys just come flying through. They're like, get knocked off the leaf. So Pixar do these things. They just put their own, all together. But I love that. I love that. And it goes to Yann's point about world building. This happens around the same time as Andy went off to college. Like, this is present day in Pixar world. And
they do. And they also quite like how they don't take themselves that seriously. Like, it's not kind of, this is all business and money and it's kind of done in fun and these kind of creative people come together.
It'd be nice to see when we get Toy Story 4 next year, if we get inside a car or something, it's got like the skulls from the Day of the Dead sort of, even the top of De La Cruz's guitar, the skull, we have like one of them as like an air freshener or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It will be like that.
Or maybe we'll see something of Coco appear in Incredibles 2, even though time-wise they're not at the same time. Or we don't know that for a fact. But I know Incredibles 2 is set right after Incredibles 1. Mm-hmm. Like, there's not a time jump or anything. But yeah.
Yeah, well, but the thing is that all those studios, they own all that stuff, so they can do the crossovers if they want.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes me a bit worried. Well, I'm curious to see how Ready Player One will work out, because I'm pretty sure all the different intellectual properties are owned by different people. Like when you see the Iron Giant and the DeLorean and all the
they did that in Wreck-It Ralph. I mean, there's loads of different ones. They had Pac-Man, they had Sonic the Hedgehog, they had Dr. Eggman, they had the M. Bison. They had loads of different video games, and they're all owned by different properties.
That's interesting.
So it's not difficult to do, because Sonic the Hedgehog in Wreck-It Ralph is like a PSA announcer. It's like, if you're not back in your game by when they're turned off, that's no good.
Oh, God.
Because it's like an homage to, I think, the old Sonic cartoon, when it was the guy that was Urkel.
Yeah.
Was the voice of Sonic. I used to watch that cartoon and it was just too weird.
I thought a really nice aspect of Coco was the fact that forgetting the dead is something is lost in that. And that it's important to remember people that you've lost. I thought that was quite nice. How even though you're dead, there's still a hierarchy almost.
I don't think it's a stereotype to say that Mexicans usually have like large families. Like it's all about the extended family. Like it's like one big unit, like how in the animal kingdom, like elephants are a big massive family.
Yeah, it's like they all look out for each other, and they have these massive parties, and Day of the Dead is all about family and connections and stuff. And so if you have festivals like that, like surely it must be very important.
Maybe it never changed in Mexico, because I mean now we have smaller families here around those parts. But I talked to Adam about that yesterday. My father's mother, there were 9 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and they were clearly white, there was a Corsica origins, but still white,
Well, I when I was just saying that point, I remember there's a party, a girl has for their 15th birthday, they get this massive party.
Quinceañera.
Yeah. Because I was just looking at it going, oh God, how to pronounce that? But yeah. And you always, whenever you see these, you see them all the time in different media and film. They're always huge, like they're big, massive parties. So that's where I get the idea that like Mexicans have big families as well.
Or at least the link between your extended families are more important maybe than in Western cultures nowadays, where things have become smaller.
Yeah, because that thing that's called Sweet 16, is that kind of a party when that happens? Or is that just a symbolic?
I think that's a corporate. I think that was a created thing. I think, was it a TV show first, and then everyone's like, oh, I want a Sweet 16th?
Oh.
I mean, I don't know, because when you're 15 and you want to have a party, there's I remember in my school it was like a thing. But
it's a thing, yeah.
But it's not. I don't think it's as big as a quinceañera.
Okay, and there's also what do you call that? A communion, like the
communion.
Yeah, that's
a religious
not. It's
thing.
called religion. Yeah.
Do you know the Brazilian Portuguese speaking countries? Instead of calling it a quinceañera, it's called a festa de debutants. So
that's Portuguese. So
Portuguese. So
yeah.
Just to play back to like French in French Caribbean, like debutante balls and all that sort of thing.
Yes,
which I quite like.
They definitely have just debutante balls in Britain for sure, but it's kind of for royalty and important social people. If you're part of a debutante and you're invited to these balls, then it's usually like princesses and stuff.
First time I heard that word, well, outside of France, because that's French, was in Cruel Intentions.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard lots of things.
No, apparently Sweet 16 is genuinely this just another similar to things in different cultures like the quinceañera and obviously the Brazilian one that I just said and butchered, the Festa de Debutants.
Thanks for checking, because we would have had some comments.
Probably, yeah. That's really interesting. I always thought it was the TV show, but that's because of the TV show My Sweet 16. I'm like, oh, so it's just from that. Because you know how some holidays are invented by card companies, sort of things.
Yeah.
That's really, I did not know that. I'm learning all sorts of things this episode.
Well, I mean, not to put a dark spin on it, but 16 is the year that you become legal.
In some countries.
Yeah, exactly.
In Britain.
That's what I mean. It's just that it probably comes from that part of society where it's like, the woman is now able to
sexually legal. Okay. Yeah, so that's what's the thing I was talking about, like when it's 15 in France, like the under the age of 15 or...
Of consent, yes.
Yes, that's, right. The age of consent is 16 here then.
In the USA, it's USA and Canada, and the UK is 16.
Okay.
16 is legal age of drinking in Germany, Belgium, Switzerland, Australia, Portugal.
But not hard liquor, not like vodka and stuff.
Is that true?
That's when I went to Berlin and I was 16, we could only buy beer and wine.
It's also the voting age of Argentina, Austria, Brazil, Cuba, Ecuador, Isle of Man, and Nicaragua.
There you go.
Although, actually, Scotland there is a big movement for giving votes to 16-year-olds in Scotland for Scottish elections. Because they allowed 16-year-olds to vote in the Scottish independence referendum of 2014.
Yes, they did.
You have a time thing here with alcohol. I think past 10 p.m.
You can't buy alcohol at an off license after 10 p.m. and before 12 p.m. in the afternoon. So between the hours of 12 in the afternoon until 10 at night, you can buy alcohol in off-licensed premises.
That might only be Scots law, because I think you can buy alcohol at any point in the day.
Okay, it's
in England, in London, I'm sure that you can buy wine in the morning.
Well, I know for a fact that it's illegal in Scotland. You have to give notice if you're going to decrease the price of alcohol in Scotland. Because when I worked at the theatres, like, we don't have happy hours, because in England they do. You have happy hours where, like, for a specific point of time, it's this price. But in Scotland, you have to give like 3 weeks notice, which is why I am almost certain this happens. I don't have proof, but I'm going to say it. Some places in Edinburgh, 3 weeks before the Fringe, will notify a new price so that their prices will change when the festival happens.
Yeah.
Which makes total sense from a commercial point. If there's more people, put the price up.
Yeah, it's good business sense.
Yeah.
You've got loads of tourists coming in, and it's kind of like a festival. So
I'm thinking about this because it looks a bit like all those supermarkets, like crime scenes, like alcohol line, do not cross.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I remember this. I think it's at 11 p.m. You can't buy alcohol after that. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it must be Scotland. I think it is Scotland. You're right, Anouk.
Okay. Any specific departments you want to talk about
in this film?
Yeah.
Well, music for sure. The music nailed, as always.
I think voice acting was amazing. Like, very consistent and nice.
It was nice to have a new IP in the sense of, this film was not related to any other Pixar movie that's ever been.
Yes.
It had no pressures. It could tell its own story. I really enjoyed that. It was refreshing.
I was, original. By Okja. I was wondering if it was based on any previous story, and we probably should check if it was speculative or just randomly, instead of just saying, yeah, maybe. Because I tried and I didn't find anything clear.
Okay. This is from an article from Cinema Blend, www.cinemablend.com. The article is called "Why the Original Story for Coco Did Not Work." The director was speaking before he said that his original. I'll just read from the sentence. Ahead of this week's digital release of Coco, he told me that his original pitch for the film wasn't going to be about a Mexican boy, but rather an American one with a Mexican family. However, after learning about Dios de los Muertos, the director realized that his idea was exactly the opposite of the story he would be telling. First, he explained what his original idea was and pitched. So this is what he said. The first story that we developed for about 8 months or so, there was still a boy as the main character, but he was an American boy who had a father who was American. His mother had been from Mexico, but she had passed away right before the story started. And it was a story about the father taking the boy down to Mexico to meet his Mexican family for the first time on Dios de los Muertos. A series of strange events happened. The boy ended up going into the land of the dead, but ultimately that story, there was no Ernesto de la Cruz or any of that. It was a film that ultimately was about the kid coming to grips with his mother being gone and saying goodbye to her and letting her go.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was speculative, but developed from something into something else. Yeah, that's cool.
And quite different, quite drastically changed. I'm quite happy that it was Mexican and in Mexico.
That's a major prop. Yeah, that was a major good idea.
I'm glad that they did that.
Do you think if they'd done that story, they would have got flack? In the world we live in today?
Probably not flack, no, because we'd still be talking about how it's good that an American person was going to Mexico and learning about something new and culturally different.
I almost feel that some people would latch onto that saying it's a anti-immigration thing for America with that whole situation going on right now. It's a bit hitting the nail on the head, you know.
Even though it's a celebration of your family, so maybe not. It's talking about how America and Mexico have connections as well.
No, I agree. I just mean that the fact that it was about a Mexican, an American kid meeting his Mexican family and getting in touch with them is a bit too much like Disney saying, hey, we shouldn't build a wall, we should build a family. You know, that sort of thing.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Could be.
I feel that that's a bit too commentary right now. I feel that film could easily be made and probably should be made because, you know, you got to question these things that are happening in your world. But I think that the film they made that we watched and is released and won Best Animation does a far better way of making people acknowledge and look into Mexican culture than doing a film that just hits that subject on the head. You know, it's like when you go to the theatre and you get someone preached at you, as opposed to having a thing that's based around that idea makes you think about it more.
Yeah, and humanizes like a culture that, you know, certain people won't know anything about that culture, and which is so important, you know.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay, so now I'll introduce a new segment.
Oh, cool!
It's called Into the Vault. So we'll be
the Disney Vault.
Suggested by Adam a few times in the previous episodes. Those movies which go into the vaults are so influential to you, me, whoever, that they may very well be bad or unknown to the rest of the world. Those without which your personality would be slightly different. Today, I'm bringing you Dead Poets Society.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the music, the subject matter, everything. I'm not entirely sure why it's stuck with me, because I've never been to a private sector school. I've never had my father fiercely against my desire to be an actor, or against any of my endeavors for that matter. I'm not sure why, but it's one of those films I have in a special place close to my heart. So I would say that vault is close to the heart, close to my heart than my brain. And I'll always be grateful to Peter Weir, who did the movie, for this. So that was my vault of the day. That was me. So I suggest every episode we switch.
Okay.
Next time will be one of you. So if you haven't seen Dead Poet Society, because that's quite an old one, I recommend. It deals with strong themes, suicide, and but it's also funny. Well, go watch it. I think indeed we're good. Rating?
Yeah, of course. So, Yann, Anouk, is Coco good, bad, or just plain standard? Yann?
Good.
Anouk?
Yeah, very good.
Get wrecked, Brave. This is like 1,000 times better than you. This is very good.
Yeah. Very good.
This is Baby Driver good.
Across the board, good, very, very good. I take my hat off to everyone involved.
Oh, I love that phrase. I tip my hat to you, good sir.
Exactly.
Cool. And I just have something to add before we go. I'd like to talk about theater for a moment. In terms of the best theatrical experiences we ever had, before we actually gathered and started the podcast and lived together, the one which was mine was the Gems plays, especially because there was on-stage seating, which was and the cheapest seats in the house. It was 9 hours on 3 plays, but still it was great. We went to see Network, which was quite phenomenal, and it will be an episode coming up rather soon, once the Oliviers are over, so we will know if Bryan Cranston got the best actor for that.
Oof, yes.
So we were
Adam,
Anouk,
and Yann. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.